It's Pokemon Day of 2025, and with that, the Pokemon Company and Game Freak have released a ton of new announcements related to the series. Most specifically, and most interestingly, we finally have gameplay footage of Pokemon Legends ZA. So, let's talk about the interesting announcements, and yeah, let's jump straight into it. Let's start with Pokemon Champion, since we have seen very little. My initial reaction to seeing this trailer slash preview slash promotional video slash whatever you want to call it was thinking they were making a competitor to Pokemon Showdown, which I am surprised still exists, in all honesty. But as going through this trailer a couple more times to make this video, I kind of realized, hey, wait a second. They are showing specifically the battle sections of games. The games built around having a way to showcase battles in games when you really couldn't do that on a TV. Specifically, Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Battle Revolution. And I think those two games are a specific choice because they excluded the other two with that purpose, XD and Coliseum. But frankly, if they kind of advertised it like those, people would think they'd have a single player story that's really good. But that is really interesting. And since it's a game focused on battling, I really do think this is going to be a new generation of Battle Revolution, of Stadium, which is really cool! Barring, I would appreciate it if I could just get Pokemon with good stats, IVs, hidden abilities, and movesets that I wanted, instead of having to grind them in a mainline game. Yeah, that's the problem with this. Although it is really cool that I'm going to get to battle with Mega Evolution and Terastal forms. And seemingly whole national decks. And maybe we'll get Dynamaxing and Z-moves too? Frankly, a Pokemon battle game where you can just use everything is pretty cool. And I'd be interested to see how it comes out, how it is. I'm definitely going to check this out once it releases. This next one's here, not because I necessarily have a lot to say, but because I think it's really funny that we're adding the Nightmare Pokemon to Pokemon Sleep. You know, the Pokemon that, in the mainline games, literally trapped a girl in an eternal nightmare, effectively killing her. You know, that Pokemon. In the game about sleeping. I'm just saying, really interesting choice. But let's move straight on to the star of the show, and we'll probably take up the majority of this video. Pokemon Legends ZA finally having gameplay. And I am so excited for this game. Just quick recap for those who missed it or didn't know. Pokemon X and Y were my first Pokemon games. Legends Arceus is my favorite game in the series. You're combining that. This game could very well be my personal favorite Pokemon game ever if they do this right. And that's been my thoughts since ZA got announced. And does it look like it's holding up to that candle? Well, let's talk about it. Maybe, but there's also a good shot the answer is no. Because there's a lot here, and I am conflicted about a lot of it. So I'm just going to go through and kind of mention the things that are conflicting to me, or I have something I want to say about. And the starter choice sure is interesting. I'm really surprised that we got 2 Gen 2 starters. I would have expected them to all be from different generations, just like in Arceus. Yet somehow here we are. The best Gen 2 starter and the worst one. I'll let you decide in the comments which I'm referring to for each. Although I guess technically Tepig's the worst Gen 2 starter since it isn't a Gen 2 starter, but you get my point. Either way, I'm really excited to see what these guys get, whether it's a regional variant or a new Mega. Hell, maybe they get both. That would feel a bit excessive, but it is possible. And let's just move on to the very next thing I have to talk about. The area wild zone things that are honestly quite concerning. One of the best parts about Legends Arceus was the fact it was pseudo-open world, and I can say this for Scarlet and Violet as well. The game was technically open world, but you had to do everything in a linear order. But the fact is, these areas look really small, and like, unnecessarily small, and could we seriously have just left Lumio City to catch our damn Pokemon? Like, genuinely, I think X and Y has a pretty good region, and there's a lot we could do with Kalos, especially if we had a more open zone setup, since it loops in on itself quite often due to the fact it's a circle. No, we're just staying in Paris. Really. And this sucks, because, well, I can't remember who said this. About a year ago, when we first found out that the game would only take place in Lumios, I heard someone suggest that maybe where we can catch Pokemon are the catacombs underneath the city, which would reflect the real-world equivalent, Paris. But, nope. They're just some Pokemon walking down the middle of downtown Paris. Sure. Like, I get Lumios is one of the biggest cities Pokemon has ever had, but, like, seriously? Can I please explore outside of the town? At all? In the slightest? Maybe see if we finally fixed frickin' Geosenge Town? Maybe? I don't know, is that too much to ask for? Genuinely, while I'm excited for this game, that's going to be something that is genuinely a make or break deal. If they can handle this correctly, then it's probably going to be fine. But I am incredibly worried that they do not. Speaking of something that could be quite worrying if handled incorrectly, what are they doing with the combat? Like, genuinely, I was expecting Pokemon combat. But looking at the UI and what I've seen, this reminds me most of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, if anything. With the art menu and a lot of it, just kind of, instead of controlling the driver, you're controlling the blade, who sits back and doesn't do much while the driver does the combat. But that's really, really interesting to me. I think, if done well, combat could be great. I love Xenoblade. But if done poorly, people are going to have wished we just got standard Pokemon combat. Especially since, 1, the Pokemon community does not like change. 2, this is, in a lot of ways, not a Pokemon game. And while I get Legends is technically a spin-off, with ZA, I think we were all expecting it was going to be similar to Legends Arceus, where, well, it's technically different and maybe the game's structured different than the mainline entries, it still plays and feels like Pokemon instead of a game that very clearly looks like it's a spin-off that will be using the core ideas of Pokemon. And again, that is not a bad thing. We do not know enough for me to be saying things for certain, because I think if this is done well, the game could be great. But we haven't been shown enough, let alone be able to feel how it controls and how it really is for ourselves, to be able to answer that. Out of any Pokemon game, this is the one that feels like it needs a demo the most. Because this is a game where a lot of the things I'm saying in this video, a lot of the things I'm worried about, could easily be proven correct or completely alleviated by getting to play the game for even half an hour. Genuinely, I don't know until I get to play around with these features for myself. And I'm not going to be able to do that till, realistically, November. Since with the late 2025 release date combined with the general patterns, it's safe to say this is going to come out on November 20th or November 21st. Also, on a less serious, more jokey note, how has Mega Evolution not been outlawed? Like, look at the Alola Pokedex entries. This is physically hurting your Pokemon. How is this still legal? Either way, those are just my thoughts. What are yours? And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!